Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are excited today to hear about payroll, and our very own Lori Knapp is going to discuss with us all the important items that you will need to prepare for your year-end reporting, preparing for year-end payroll reporting. So I will turn it over to Lori in just a moment, but just a few things to start off with. I apologize. Before we get started, a couple of quick pieces of housekeeping. First, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question box, and we will get them called out and answered for you at the end of the webinar. And second, we do record this in all of our webinars, so if you want the recording or have someone else in your organization see it, you will be able to find that later this afternoon at Innovia.com. So now, without further ado, I will turn it over to Lori.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to take, several minutes here and try to just go briefly through all the steps and things that you ought to be thinking about for your year-end payroll processing. Okay, so before we get started, let's just take a quick look at the agenda. I'm going to give you a quick introduction. We're going to talk about the different ways to submit support tickets. We'll talk about typical year-end payroll support issues as well as some of the processes. And then I also want to cover the differences between payroll tax, regulatory updates, how those are distributed, or how we deal with those. And then a reminder as far as the most important things that you can include when you're making a support request of us so that we can get to you efficiently, and that saves you time and money, as well as frees up our time to help everybody, because this is a very busy time of the year for us. And then we'll close out with a question and answer session. Please feel free to answer or to ask any question. There's no question that is unimportant, and I can assure you, if you have the question, somebody else probably has it in their head as well. Just to give you a brief introduction of myself, I'm a senior application consultant with Innovia. I've been here a little over 6 years, I believe it is now. I've had a pretty substantial background with Navision. I started with Navision software in early 1997, when it was still just Navision software as its own entity before it was owned by Microsoft. I worked in the U.S. headquarters, and then once I left there, I've worked with several other resellers, as well as working with end users and managing their nav systems. I can be reached at this email address, and I've also included my direct number in case you would need to reach me. As I said in the brief introduction, this time of the year is very, very busy, especially as it relates to payroll. Obviously, we have financial reporting and different things like that, but payroll comes with its own special set of issues, very hard deadlines and things that have to be taken care of. So first of all, if you find yourself in the need for reaching out to us and submitting a support ticket, there are multiple ways that you can do that. You can email us directly at support@innovia.com. That automatically creates a support ticket. We monitor the support board daily, more than daily, but just about hourly. So you can be assured that we're going to see your request. You'll get an automatic email that lets you know that we have received it and that somebody will be reaching out to you. Typically, we try to reach out within an hour or so, certainly the same day, but please be patient during this time of the year if you've got payroll issues, because we do get quite a few of those. So depending on the volume, it may take a little bit longer till we get back to you. You can also go to our website, and if you go to the support page, there is a place there that you can initiate a support request. For urgent issues, we always advise that, excuse me, I thought I turned that off. We always advise that you call directly into the support line and make it known that it is urgent. If you submit a support request that is urgent, please put the word urgent in your subject matter. That will alert the person doing the triage that needs to be handled very, very quickly. And currently, we do have a support portal that if you make arrangements with Desiree, she can get you hooked up so that you can see your support requests and all of the different statuses and what's taking place on those. So typically the year-end support payroll issues that you're going to run into, I kind of divide them into two different areas. It's more your W-2 processing and employer reporting issues, and then also you have the additional tax rates and regulatory updates that you have to worry about. Those really are related mostly to the tax rates, obviously, are mostly related to your next year. So for 2018, the regulatory updates basically have to do with the reporting itself. So when you go to process your W-2s and your employer reporting information, you're either going to have problems producing your W-2s, or maybe an employee has wrong amounts. You don't know how to correct them. You can't access screen shades, or you're having problems uploading files or accessing the form center. You may run into where you have incorrect amounts or totals for your other required reporting, your 940s, 941s, etc. If you have urgent matters, again, please call us, especially during this time of the year. As far as the tax updates and the regulatory updates, maybe you don't have those applied, you weren't aware, or you didn't make arrangements for us to get them in, or you might be behind. Throughout the year, regulatory updates are released, and if those apply to you, we try to make arrangements throughout the year to implement those, so that the ones that come at this time of the year, we don't have 2 or 3 stacked up behind that also have to be implemented. Another part of the regulatory updates are any changes or reporting requirement changes that might be related to the ACA reporting. So if those aren't updated, you might run into issues there. And then the tax rates, typically those are new tax tables and brackets that have to be implemented for, before your first payroll of the new year. Okay. One thing I want to stress is that make sure that your IT department is getting a good backup at the end of your year. Make sure they verify that it can be restored, because obviously having a backup that can't be restored does you no good. And you sure don't want to have to go back and recreate payroll information for an entire year just so you can get W-2s out and get your final regulatory reports out. Okay. With enough planning, payroll does not have to be stressful. I don't know that I would exactly call it fun, but certainly you can minimize the pain if you prepare for it. I always say begin early. Right now is definitely not too soon. We're in the month of December. Things only get more crazy the further along you get in December. You're always going to have additional things coming up. Maybe you have to do bonus runs, so you've got an additional, overhead on your payroll processing. So as soon as you can start preparing for end of year, the better off you're going to be. At this point in the year, I start checking the Serenic/Kennick websites to make sure I know of any new tax updates or regulatory updates that are being published. I want to stay on top of those because we've got a good number of payroll customers, and I need to get emails out to let people know about them. And then you need to decide whether you're going to implement those on your own or if you're going to have us implement them for you. In either case, if you're going to do them, the sooner you can get them in with an effective date of January 1st or whenever they go into effect, that's going to be one less thing you have to worry about. Regulatory updates, typically those require us to implement those for you, depending on the type of modifications and the type of update it is. We may need a developer to merge objects to make sure that other modifications or changes are not overwritten. So we need to get those scheduled with you. Please make sure go in and log into the Filing Center and also the Form Center for Green Shades to make sure that you can still access it. Start doing your reports so that you can make any quarterly adjustments that are needed. You want to start reviewing and preparing for any year-end carryover, such as sick time, vacation, PTO, whatever. If you're going to roll hours over, you're going to need to prepare and make sure you have the right information. Excuse me. And lastly, don't forget to order your W-2s and W-3s or go out and purchase them, whatever you do. Excuse me. Okay. As far as the process for payroll tax and regulatory updates, they are published out on the Kennick, I say /Serenic website because Kennick now has purchased Serenic. And even though the website says Serenic, Kennick owns the software. As soon as I see that updates are available, I download them and review them, test them if there's anything in there that looks problematic, and then I send out email announcements to all of our payroll customers, letting them know they're there and to give you some idea of what's included in them. From there, I need to hear back from you on whether you want us to put them in or if you want to do them on your own. If you want to do them on your own, then I'm going to send you the PDF file so that you can read through and put those in there. The one thing I want to keep stressed is that most of you have test databases, and I know it takes more time, but it's really critical that you enter in your rates into your test database as well as your live database. If you have to go and test anything, or I need to be involved to do any troubleshooting, I really don't want to have to do it in live if I can help it. So I would ask you to try to keep both databases in sync with the current rates. If we don't have the current rates in your test database, then the testing might not be accurate. As far as the regulatory updates, as I mentioned, they are more time consuming simply because we need to have a development resource available and prepared to get those implemented. Sometimes they're not tough, other times they are, and if they're not up to date, that means having them implement 2 or 3 or whatever the case may be, and so that will obviously be more time consuming. A lot of times the regulatory updates, you need to have those for your year-end payroll processing. Those are also published, and I download those from the Kennick and Serenic website. And just like I send out email announcements on the payroll tax updates, if there is a regulatory update that impacts you, you will also get notification of that. Sometimes the regulatory updates only pertain to certain versions. So, again, those are a little bit different than the tax updates. The tax updates are going to apply to everybody. So once we know what updates we have, the regulatory updates, then I will be looking to get in touch with you to schedule a time when we can get those implemented and deployed. Okay. The tax updates, as I mentioned, those are primarily new rates, new tax brackets for 2018. This year is probably going to be a little more challenging than past years simply because the Congress is in the process of trying to pass a new tax plan. It's not finalized yet. I know they keep saying they're going to hope to have it finalized by Christmas. Even so, that does not give those that put together new tax brackets, etc., does not give them a lot of time to get things in place. So I know that's going to be probably a potential, bottleneck depending on when we get those and what has to be done. Tax updates should always be manually entered, just because you want to avoid overwriting anything that might be in your system as a customization or a particular payroll control. Obviously, federal tax ones probably aren't going to be modified, but even if you have the ability to import them, it's just easier, I find, to go ahead and manually enter them. Each update, the PDF file will list all the pay controls that are affected. It will always define the bracket or other tables that need changed. It'll give you the new tax brackets, the new pay rates. Once in a while, there will be changes to method steps or calculations within the method step. So really, we just have to take each one of those individually and analyze them and determine what needs to be done. And I try to provide, a broad description of what is included so that you have an idea how that's going to impact you. Sometimes multiple state rates are changing. Right now, it's not uncommon to get new workers' comp limits. One thing I must say about workers' comp is that's the actual tax rate is very different on a company-by-company basis. So if you're having us implement your new tax rates, please let me know or let us know, I should say, what your new workers' comp rate is. And sometimes that goes to with your state unemployment. Unemployment rates for companies vary based on their experience. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, some of your regulatory updates are required because they might contain changes that directly relate to any of your regulatory reporting, 940s, 941s. It might be W-2 layouts. It could contain changes to the filing center or the form center and the processes that they have. So that's why those a lot of times are mandatory. One thing to keep in mind, or actually two, Kennick doesn't maintain changes to pre-2015 versions of W-2 layouts or mag media. And that's just simply because they have a very tight schedule of when they roll forward and what they are maintaining. It used to be when everyone printed W-2s and processed W-2s from within NAV, you had those updates at the end of the year. But now, because you're expected to use Green Shades manages all the W-2 layouts and different things like that. Okay. Now let's move into a couple tips and things on what you can do to prepare for the different processes you have to go through. For W-2 processing, I highly recommend that you run reports to start verifying employee earnings and tax information, and especially their social security numbers, employee addresses, employer information. Don't forget that you're going to need contact information, and that's going to be set up on your employer card. That's simply who to contact if there is a problem with a W-2. If you find that you have issues with taxes by employee, you might want to use the quarter recalculation functionality, although some adjustments can be made directly through a payroll journal. It just depends on the type of adjustments you need to make. So if you're unsure, please feel free to contact us and we will help you through that. Also, you might have to add in different things, employee benefits, such as moving reimbursement that are taxable and they don't come through, in a normal paycheck, but for end of year processing, you need to include that benefit as earnings. So that would be one type of thing that you could enter through a payroll journal to make sure you have that information available for the W-2s. Okay. Also, when you're ready, there's the function generate W-2s, which creates the file that's going to be uploaded to the filing center. Hopefully by that time you have all your corrections made. But after you've done the upload and you determine there is a correction that you need, you can also correct the data within the filing center. Something simple, like if you have a taxable question or something. So once you get into the filing center, you've verified all your data in there, then that's when you're ready to transfer your data to the form center. And the form center is going to be typically where you print the W-2s for the employees. Green Shades has, several options. You can pay to have them completely print, mail, just handle the W-2s once you turn over the data to them. They do have an online function where you can set up and your employees can log in and get their own W-2s. Short of that, you can get a file and you can print the W-2s on the W-2 stock that you get. Filing of the data, that's always going to be done through the filing center, and you're not going to do that until you get your W-2s printed and you know that all your W-2s are correct, which in turn then will create a correct W-3. And then one thing to keep in mind, in the newer versions of NAV, I believe it's 2015 and above, you can now print out W-2s within NAV, but still your filing and your initial processing still takes place in the filing center. So for those higher versions, they have put that back in where you can print the W-2s from within NAV. You just can't do your filing. You still have to interface with Green Shades to do that. Okay, federal and state reporting. So I'm talking here about your 940s, 941s, your pseudo reporting, and I didn't put on here, but your workers' comp, if there's anything there you've got to report on. You want to start running your reports early, start reviewing and verifying your information. I like to use the payroll control transaction summary report simply because I can go in and run the report for one payroll control. So if I want to do it for, let's say for FUTA, I can run it for FUTA and make sure that I've got, all my employee earnings, the limits are correct, the tax calculations are correct. And then you also want to run it, I always suggest running it for both Medicare employee and Medicare employer, and the same thing for Social Security, employer and employee, because you want to make sure that the earnings that show up for Medicare ER match what's there for your employee. And the same thing with the withholdings. Make sure the employee withholdings match the employer withholdings. So that's one that I highly recommend running. For your state unemployment, if you've got multiple states, obviously you're going to have to run that for multiple states. If your state has any special reporting requirements, if it's for state income tax, you may have to run some additional reports. But again, really for all your verification purposes, I like to run that payroll control transaction report, because that you can break it down by pay control, which is typically where your reporting is going to be driven from. Okay. As you're going through that, then you've also got your annual Affordable Care Act reporting that has to be done. You've got two options under the Max Updates: update employee AC offer and create employee ACA coverage. Those are, I believe, what goes ahead and creates the information needed for the reporting. And then the last one, generate ACA, that's the one that creates the report. And again, that's done through Green Shades. And so when you run generate ACA, if you select open filing center, it will automatically open the filing center so that you can continue with the process to get that taken care of. Okay, don't forget your deadline for getting employee W-2s out is January 31st. I didn't put a lot of other deadlines in here simply because there's so many, and especially when you get down to states and what their requirements are, I could have probably done a lot of different slides. And so if you have questions on it, I'm happy to help you figure out what you need to do. Just let me know. Okay. So during the end of year, and if you need payroll support, a lot of this is the same things that you would provide us if you were in the middle of the year asking for payroll support. But I like to review it because these things are important and can make a difference in how quickly we can resolve things for you. First and foremost, always determine the urgency. If it's a true emergency, call us. You're going to get the quickest service that way if you need assistance immediately. If you don't need it right away, please make it clear in your request when you need it, especially during the end of the year. Like I said, we are so busy. If we know we can put, effort into this couple days down the line, that will assist us then. I apologize. Anyways, other necessary details to provide: your main contact, who we need to contact, any information we might need to get to them. If you've done any troubleshooting, please let us know what you've already done. Screenshots, error messages, those are always really good. That helps us very quickly in many instances. And then we need to know, is the problem limited to one employee or to just one payroll control? On your payroll reporting, it might just simply be that you've got something out of whack on a payroll control that we just need to replace or to fix. And then obviously who or what is impacted, that will assist us. Are there any unusual circumstances? Have you tried to replicate it? If you did, what steps did you take? Did you replicate it in your test database, or is this just in your live database? Any examples you can give us are going to indeed be a big help. And the same thing, if it's a calculation error, what should the calculation results be? So many things that people do, they do differently. You're not always going to calculate a certain pay type the same way as what another employer would. So please, let us know that way what we can do. And then at this time of the year, is the problem in Green Shades or accessing Green Shades, or is it, within the vision itself? Just let us know so that we, know best where to help you with that. Okay. Couple other things to keep in mind. This is the busiest time of the year for payroll support. Obviously, that probably goes without saying, but it really is. And just because of all the different things, it is, you know, a lot more time consuming just because of the volume and the different types of things that are out there that we can hear. A lot of times with the issues, the troubleshooting has to occur in production. It's not a normal support situation where we have time to try and recreate it, and it may not be able to be recreated in a test environment. So a lot of times troubleshooting occurs in production, which is, you know, a little bit more involved because we have to be more careful. And then also we need to know, you know, we might need to contact Canic or Green Shades depending on what the issue is. And then also, you know, if it's Green Shades, we here at Innovia still have to go through Serenic typically. And then if we have to work with Green Shades directly or do a three-way call with them and you, that's not an issue. So all we ask is that you be patient because we've got a lot of different customers out there that might be in the same position that you are. Again, ways that you can help us, let us know, you know, the results that you're expecting or how you think the calculation should be working versus what it's doing. If it involves more than one employee, are there different patterns or trends in the data that you see? And lastly, has anything changed? Have you made any changes to pay controls to employees, anything that might impact the results that you're getting? Typically, you know, we don't have problems. If everything's been functioning for you payroll-wise, fine, up until you go to do this, then either something's not set up correctly, updates not in, or something has changed. So all those things are good for us to know. Okay. All right, so let's just do a quick recap here. As I mentioned, there's, you know, several different ways to contact us for support, either direct email, go to the website and submit a support request, call us directly. Those are probably the three key ways. You know, remember, know what your urgency is, and the more information you can provide us at the time you request help, the more efficient we can handle your support request. As I said earlier, starting early, now is not too early. The earlier you start and give yourself enough time, the better off you're going to be. Things that you can do now, start running reports so that you can review the data, make sure that it looks, you know, sensible. You don't see any red flags that stick out there. If you see areas where you think you need corrections, you have time to do the research. You have time to contact us if you need assistance with making those corrections. And then again, like I said, if you haven't been in the filing center lately, please take time to log in and just poke around so that you're familiar and you don't feel like it's your first time when you go in there to process your W-2s. And lastly, which I just already said, the more information you can give us, the better off we'll be and the better and quicker we can assist you. And again, the quicker you get started, the better off you're going to be. I don't want you to have problems with your year-end processing, and I'm sure that you don't either. So let's work together on making this a successful year-end for you. Okay, do we have any questions?
No questions, Lori.
No questions. Well, if you don't have questions right now and you think of some later, please feel free to reach out directly to me. Again, you can send those directly to my email, Innovia.com. And also, we're always open to suggestions, good, bad. If you think it was too boring, please let me know. I'll try to spice it up in the future. If you have other ways that you'd like to see it evolve, please let me know. And with that, I just want to thank you for your time and your attention. So thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you, Lori. And just to recap for everyone, this is recorded, so it will be available on our website later this afternoon for review at www.innovia.com. And also feel free to check out our past events page where you can check out the other webinars and listen to those. Our next webinar will be tomorrow with Next Generation Logistics on LTL, freight rate, shipping, and more for NAV. And then we have one next week on Tuesday with SPS Commerce and Beck. They are doing a joint webinar with us, how to streamlining your EDI can save time and money. So be checking those out and register for those in the coming days, so that way you will have a seat on that webinar. So thank you again, Lori, and everyone for attending. Everyone have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.